We now move on to our next keynote presentation. Up next, we're privileged to hear from elite athlete Peter Cowan, who brings a powerful Te Ao Māori perspective on engaging rangatahi in sport and recreation. From a life-changing accident at 15 to becoming a Paralympic medalist, Peter's journey speaks to resilience, identity, and the cultural threads that connect Māori youth to sport today. He'll be sharing his millennial viewpoint on disability, competition, and the intergenerational shifts he's seen across Te Ao Hākinakina. Can you please welcome to the stage Peter Cowan.
Tēnā tātou katoa. E ngā mana whenua o tēnei whenua e mihi ana kia koutou. E ngā kaiwhakahaere me ngā kaiurungi o ngā waka i ngā hāpuri o Aotearoa. Tēnei au ka mihi atu kia koutou. Kua tai mai nei ki tēnei kaupapa i tēnei rā. Tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora, good afternoon everyone. For those of you who may not know, my name is Peter Cowan, and I'm very privileged to be here with you today and to be able to share my story with you all. Just for quick context, if you signed up to this session and were excited to come and see Te Ao, surprise, you get Te Ao from Temu. I heard when I took on this role that there was some pretty big shoes to fill, and yeah, unfortunately I can only fill one of them, so bear with me as I've just had to quickly construct a presentation for you all today. But I love this feeling. I love being in spaces like this where we can make a social change in our society through sport, which is a great vehicle. First of all, I like to start off with the question, who are millennials? I saw this word typed up in the brief, and to be honest, I never heard the word before. I probably lived that word in motion growing up in my time, and I kind of Googled a few definitions around here, so some key attributes that popped up were, well, according to Google, millennials are diverse and inclusive. They value work-life balance with family. There's something that spoke out to me, and nostalgia, which was pretty interesting. With the nostalgia part, it said there's a significant portion of millennials who exhibit a fondness of the past. So I thought, why not display a bit of that today? If you're a millennial, these are things I can relate to from the past. Not too sure if my kids will ever know what that thing means over there. Dial up, right? We came up through the era where technology was, on the come up. No internet through the, what do we have these days? Fiber. The only form of social media or getting exposure to our athletes were these cool magazines, rugby, those are ones that I read. Had no Instagram back there, couldn't check in with your players and follow their journeys. This was the best thing. PlayStation was in my era. I was a bit late to the Atari and the other ones. And also the cord phone. I'm not too sure if those are still around. Another great book that I was privileged to find in my local school. I come from a rural community in Hastings, and you'll find this book on pretty much every shelf. To me, this was my first look into seeing successful people doing their thing, whether it was in sport, leadership or in the performing arts, I learnt quickly about some heroes that I looked up to. I couldn't put my finger on one, my favorite one, or at least, but these were people I referred to when people asked, who did you aspire to be like when you were younger? So down the bottom, there's a question that says, it says, we have superpowers, and what is our superpower, as heroes have? Where I'm going with this next is my lens through Te Ao Māori and as a millennial. And the Te Ao Māori lens that I've been privileged to be brought up with encompasses these 3 values, which I'll be happy to get some, what do you call it? Phone a friend in the audience if you want to break down one word for me. I know what these mean, but I'd like to hear, I guess, anyone's take on what these values mean to you. So if I can get anyone to shout out an answer for manaakitanga. Any takers? Care. Yes. Respect. Exactly. Move on to whanaungatanga. Anyone hear that one before? Sorry? Connection. Bang on. There we go. And kaitiakitanga. I'll be happy to take the lead on that one. Sorry? Stewardship. Yeah. Taking care of things. So these are some values that I've grown up around in my upbringing, and one of the main places where I got to see this in motion and happening in my life was on the marae. On the marae, basically, you're always called back to it, no matter where you are in life, whether you're living urban or rural. The marae will always call us back, I guess, growing up. And I'd see these things in motion through the many roles that play out on the marae, right from welcoming people in, who's bringing them in, learning about karanga, people giving kōrero, and showing manaaki. For me, another word for that is hospitality, great care. And there's a saying in Te Ao Māori, when you go to marae, the best way to judge the manaaki of the people is off their food. So that's where the real hard workers behind the scenes shine. You got your hunters and gatherers, you have your nannies in the kitchen, and it's actually a great place to learn catering skills and how to cook and clean. And I think Te Ao's favourite one is drying dishes. And these are just things that I've brought into my life in different spaces, which I'd like to speak to next. Oops. Sorry. So, connections in spaces. So the Te Ao Māori brings a sense of connection in all spaces. To me, this is hononga, and this is a superpower. Hononga is basically the word for connection. I've got to look at my notes real quick, sorry. So, in my space, I pretty much am on the water mostly every day, 6 days a week, 1 day off. If not on the water, I'm in the gym interacting with my circle of support. Specifically on the water, in our sport, the sport of waka ama, we're in a cool space culturally because we get to do things like karakia, sometimes waiata, and we get to practice being Māori in this space. And for me, it makes being in sport more bigger than it is, because it's not only connecting me to a worthy goal or worthy mission, but it's bringing the world around me with me as a paddle, if that makes sense. One thing you'll notice if you were to go up and down the country and find a waka ama club is you'll see names on waka. Names on waka mostly what's the word? When people name the wakas, it's either to do with a local pūrākau or story, so people can remember those things passed down from the other generations. It might be a name of a kaitiaki, a local guardian of the local waterways, and it might be a name of the waterway in that whenua. So having this knowledge and being on my own journey in sport, I'm always aware of which waterways we end up in. I train on the awa called Ngaruroro, and it's the awa that's set in my pepeha. And the name I've given my waka was suggested by my coach about 6 years ago, before I even knew what the name meant. The name of the waka I paddle, not only here in New Zealand, but around the world at every race, every meet. It's been all over Europe and it's been to Paris, and the name we gave it 6 years ago was More More. And More More was a local kaitiaki in Te Whanganui Orotu in the Hawke's Bay area. There's a story behind him and who he is, but having that story, having his name on the waka and having the story linked into our campaign made it more beautiful when going into battle, because I knew I had a piece of home going with me into the big wide world. So Te Ao Māori brings a sense of connection in all spaces for me in sport, and I know it can bring that sense of connection in other spaces. This one is my, I guess, a lived reality for me and a lot of my friends I've made along the way in this space. In this part, I'm not only speaking to lived experiences from myself, but also experiences that some of my friends have had when we talk about this word. And usually it's not a word that actually pops up if you speak to someone that physically has a disability. Most of us forget we have this label most of the times. I've got to look down sometimes to, I guess, realize I got a missing leg. But the question is it a physical impairment or a mindset? And we got to chop up the definition of this when we were doing our campaigning for Paris 2024. A great staff member who was at the lead of this campaign, Rachel Barr. She's passed recently, so I'd like to acknowledge her mahi behind the whole kaupapa of giving New Zealand something to talk about. So, Rachel and our whānau at PNZ campaigned for us on the road to Paris, and the campaign was, we'll give you something to talk about. And this campaign was something brought up based off lived experiences from most of our para-athletes, Paralympians. And I could relate to some experiences, and then again I couldn't, but some experiences were just, there was a video that would show, for example, there was Cameron Leslie, one of our legendary swimmers. There's a video of him getting ready to dive off a diving board, and there's a bit of background noise going on. There's comments about, can he even swim, or what are they doing in the fast lanes? Just stuff like that. And for me, hearing that for the first time, I was like, I've never experienced that before, but it's sad to know that those things are said behind people's backs. In my experiences, I've known that comments like that generally from a good place of curiosity, and I've always taken that on as a learning experience and used it as an opportunity to display that physical disability can be, you can adapt to life and get a quality living out of it. And when I look at that for myself, I haven't experienced anything too negative, but something that got me thinking was, is disability a physical impairment or is it a mindset? Is it, oops, here we go. So the reason why I asked that question is because when we look at this diagram, if you haven't seen the Te Whare Tapawhā before, we've got there's 5 on here actually. I've never seen that one before, but let's go for the taha wairua, them, we can't have us going out there and engaging with them, carrying on those relationships. In the Te Ao Māori, there's, we know those two represent the water and the ocean, but one, we represent two, which is the kōrero I've heard from Dr. Ihi Heke, and he explained that on days where it is windy and it doesn't look safe to go out, those are the best opportunities to go out and reconnect in the environment. Sounds a bit crazy, but stick with me here. In my sport, wind and water have a lot to do with how well you race. In the 200-metre race, it takes about just under 50 seconds to complete that race. And that's all subjective to the weather conditions or who the atua are out there. And there was a test event that me and my coach attended in 2023 on the Paris course. And for context, we hadn't qualified for Paris, we missed out. And this was just a test event to give us a taste of the race course. In that test event, I had a very hard time adapting to the conditions because one, there was a very strong crosswind, and two, I'd never paddled in something like that before. And a crosswind basically is, in your waka, you've got your outrigger, and it's typically on the left side of the boat, and the crosswind will come from the left or the right, but it was coming from the right, which, I don't want to get too technical, but makes it harder to steer and stay straight. And I got bullied by the wind every single race that day, and kind of came home a bit discouraged, having not experienced that before. But the plan moving forward for me and my coach was to go out in that wind every chance we could. And funny enough, when we were home for the 8 months, it didn't pop up too often. So when it did, it was a chance not only to understand and feel what the canoe was doing, but it was also a chance to reconnect with those atua, carry on that relationship, and not see it as the wind picking on you, but the wind making you stronger. Basically working together to achieve the outcome. I'd like to touch on one last experience. Sorry. That was a superpower, by the way. I'd like to touch on this one last experience on how, I guess, being a millennial, being Māori has helped me in this space. If I were to go, if I'm going back to the kōrero about the marae always calls you back, and you live the values of manaaki, whanaungatanga, you're in that space. This experience I'd like to touch on is very close to me, and it happened when I was in my Paris 2024 preparation camp. I was scheduled to go overseas for about 6 weeks in total, and train in Italy for about 5 weeks. Prior to going over, I knew that my granddad wasn't in good condition, and I knew I wouldn't see him again. In the first week of training camp, I got news that he had passed, and that was, pretty rough. In the space, like I said, when the marae calls, you always go back. But being in that situation, I couldn't go back. I couldn't be with my family. I couldn't be surrounded by that love, that whanaungatanga, that manaaki, and I had to adapt and try and find space to, I guess, feel that far away from home. I was fortunate enough to share space with my coach, who also grew up on the marae and had those values. And to us, it was very conflicting because we're on a training camp trying to prepare for the biggest event of our lives. And we know 1 day off or 2 days off, etc., will impact the way you prepare to perform. And I was really conflicted with that, but I knew it would be hard to show up to paddle if I had not taken time off. So having the understanding, not having it to explain that to my coach, that I needed time to step away because of this, was a huge blessing. And I took about 4 days off in total. Kind of kept it between me and my coach and my circle of support who helped me get through that. A special shout out to my sports psych, Sarah. A lot of kōrero with her, being far away from home, whānau, video calls, and being with Mike. We had a safe space to actually be vulnerable and, share the mamae, share the hurt. And it was weird for me because my coach is a bit older than me, I'm a bit younger than him, and it was a bit of an awkward experience trying to express how I felt at the time. And I'm glad I did it because it would have been pent up, and I don't know what kind of performances I would have been putting on in training camp, but to have that understanding then was a huge blessing. And just to see that we could hold space in training camp until we headed to the village was pretty cool. So that in itself was a superpower for me, being away from home. I want to talk about the safe space that we arrived to in the village in Paris. As you can see, we got a good friend here, Kelly. I never met Kelly before. I didn't know who was going to be in the village. And coming from that experience, having to deal with grief and loss while building up to a pinnacle event, still feeling a bit homesick. And kudos to our chef de mission, our staff from PNZ, for putting together a safe space for us, a room that felt like home. We're welcome in, and Kelly brought us into the village. Over here we've got a few of our Māori stones over here. And I remember Kelly explaining the names. The small one, Manawa Wairua. The second one was Manawa Hononga. And the big one was Manawa Ora. When I saw these stones, I felt like I was home. I felt like that was like the final top-up I needed to carry on the mission. And I felt like I could just let my guard down in the village and use this as a superpower. So go back to the stones' names. You put them all together and you get this beautiful waiata that Kelly composed called Te Manawa or Te Ko Tahitanga. And it was something beautiful to come to, and not only for me, but as I looked around in the camp and saw the unity, the ko tahitanga this brought for not only Māori, for everyone representing New Zealand, we felt a sense of connection, we felt a sense of togetherness, and we felt like we could take on the world in Paris. And I guess when I reflect on this experience, I don't think I would have done, actually not even done well, I don't think I would have been well enough to finish the mission had not having a safe space that reminded us of home. And that's all credit to having our po be with us. So just a few things to think about that I'd like to leave for everyone in this room today. I'm just going to read them off the screen. A few questions I want to leave. when we are not with our support systems, are we without our superpowers? Yeah, that's just something to marinate on. But I'd just like to close in saying, coming from my perspective of a millennial Māori para-athlete and just being me, if the future is to carry on that connection and fostering safe spaces for us to show up and channel our superpowers, I can't see it being any different than this, if not better in our communities, in the regions, and in our support groups. So I just want to leave you with one last picture. Two different ones. I'll let you discern what's going on in there. One is scared of a green-looking stone. But these are, so you got one superhero here who, I guess, loses their ability to perform through a green-looking stone. But for me, if I were to be a superhero, I'd love more of this in the picture to help me have my powers. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Yeah, but before you do go, I know you're trying to get off the stage as soon as possible. Tēnei te mihi atu ki a koe I tō manaakitanga ki a tātou katoa I te ahiahi nei. Thank you so much for your generosity and sharing your story, but also how connecting with your Māoritanga and Te Ao Māori has had such a huge impact on your success. Kei te rongo ahau I te mamai tonu I te wehinga atu I tō tūpuna. I can still hear the grief in your voice when you talk about your grandfather. So we appreciate you sharing how important that connection is for you and that vulnerability that you've shared with all of us this afternoon. So to you, my bro, awesome to see you, and thank you for sharing your story, and again, that connection to Te Ao Māori and how it is important to you, so we can all have a better understanding of what it is to be connected as an athlete. Nō reira, tēnā koe. Can we please put our hands together once more for Peter Cowan? All right, now we're going to move on to our concurrent sessions. So you would have chosen which two you were going to head to. There are 3, counterculture and sport with King Kapisti, New Zealand hip-hop recording artist. I've seen the bro in the room from this morning. Another one from FYP to MVP, how to win with influencers with Kat Day. GM breakout room, and peer crowds and physical activity, who hangs out with who and why, with Ella Cray and Fran McEwen from Sport NZ. So that information is on your apps, otherwise just follow people to wherever you're heading to. Those sessions are between 2 and 2:45, then there's a quick break for 15 minutes. If you come out of your session late, just grab a cup of tea on your way to the next session, which starts at 3 and finishes at 3:45, and then we were back into this room at 3:45 for our keynote presentation. So enjoy the breakout sessions, and we'll see you back here a little bit later on this afternoon. Kia ora tātou.